Hello, tip time. Um, I'm gonna move on into footwork. I'm gonna touch on it, not in the way that you probably think. Try and drop different kind of tips to help for when I do actual, more realistic footwork videos. This is just more of a IQ way, understanding, and then also kind of like a way to do things, to put things together. But anyways, without further ado, footwork. So, and bear in mind, I do this all off the top of my head. I have nothing written down or any of that, so it can sometimes be all over the place. This is kind of fun to talk about for me. If you ever hear the term, fighting is like chess, or this is chess, not checkers, dude, or explicitive word. So going off that, um, let me explain some things, okay? There's patterns, like footwork patterns. When you first start learning, you learn how to mirror those patterns with someone else, with a partner or something like that. And then, from the patterns, there's angles, angles come off those patterns. And then there's steps, okay? There's other things to it too. It's just that's the basic, it's the pattern, the angles, and the steps. Okay. There's lots of pieces in chess. These pieces represent steps. Some of them represent the patterns. Okay. And the only way I can kind of explain this to you in an easy way is, let's say, the king and the queen. Okay. If you were to look how king and queen work, all right, and then you take that image in your head, a king can move any direction one space. A queen can move any direction across the board. Okay. So now if you picture a king, okay, and if you ever go into, sorry, it's Halloween decoration time, so they're going to be in and out. But if you go into a gym and you see those tape patterns on the floor, some of them are like plus signs, some of them are plus signs, star looking things, and then they'll have a pattern around the edge. Okay, inside that plus sign is the king. Okay, now when you go outside of that plus sign, that's the queen. Okay, it's the difference between being in punching range and then being in, like, let's say, active. Okay, and you're one step away from punching them. Okay, so you're right on the outside of punching range, and that's queen. Okay, bear in mind, king and queen can go any direction, but a king can only go one step. Okay, left, right, back, forward, whichever. Okay, diagonal. A queen can go all the way, so they can go out into, the outer edge of that design on the ground. Okay, so there's where king and queen have their place. All right, and they're kind of a mix of everything. Now, if you were to take, like, rook, knight, bishop, all the other pieces, they are the steps. Okay, the individual steps in footwork. We've heard of, like, V step, we've heard of M steps, we've heard of L steps, and then when you look at those pieces, like, let's say L step, and you look at L step and you realize it moves exactly the same way as certain pieces. Okay, and then you take in, like, pawn. All right, pawn can move forward, but when it meets another pawn or another piece, it kind of 50-50s on them. All right, it can't attack forward, it can only attack out to the side. Okay, at an angle. Can't move backwards either. Okay, each piece or each step is designed to counter each piece or block them or attack them. Chess is very offensive and defensive. You use pieces, most people when they play chess, they're using them offensively. Not a lot of people use pieces defensively. But once you learn how to use offense and defense at the same time in chess, you start becoming really scary. Okay, and I'm not trying to build up my other videos, it's just truth. You know, you can use pieces to block pawns. You can use pieces to go around pawns. But that's just a way of looking at it, okay? There's pieces and they have different jobs and different footwork patterns, you know, two completely different steps. And that's what the pieces are representing. Now, if you were to take like a boxing ring, okay, and let's say you took the canvas of that boxing ring and you were to put squares, you know, a chessboard, quite literally, in the ring. Lots of in and out today, sorry. But if you were to lay that down inside a boxing ring, you can start to figure things out, okay? You know, if you have someone in a corner, which kind of piece of footwork can you play with to counter where they're at? You know, if they're up here in the corner, you know, and you're down here, or they're in the corner and you're right in front of them, you got them in the corner, you can start figuring out what footwork patterns and what pieces and what steps are going to help you, okay? There's certain steps that will not help you, or certain pieces that won't help you in that position. You know, maybe you're here, okay, in the corner, and you L-step, but you L-step that way, ain't gonna work because you're L-stepping into a corner. But if you were to L-step this way, you know, is gonna help you. It all depends on what you're doing and what situation. But I don't want to go too far on that because I can get crazy with that stuff, and I'm trying not to get crazy with that stuff. I'm just trying to give you an understanding of the differences and the pieces and why we refer to as fighting like chess. And it's the footwork. It's the pieces and how the pieces play the role, offensive, defensively, how to put us in a more advantageous position, okay? How to hunt, you know, and how to defend. And I'll leave you with that as far as pieces and all that good stuff. But that's what we're talking about when we're relating it, footwork and boxing and Muay Thai and all that into chess. Muay Thai has footwork patterns like M-step and stuff like that. But anyways, I don't want to go too far in that. All right, moving on. But yet still reiterating, you know, the different pieces represent, you know, different patterns, different angles, different steps. You want to try and look for steps. You know, you want to improve your arsenal of steps. Most places only teach, you know, the steps. Some expand into the angles. Some gyms do both. It's very rare to find someone who expands into steps. And that's what starts to unlock your footwork game. So keep those in mind and always search and look for the moves that the pieces can do. And then realize with what I'm moving on to, you're trying to put yourself in a position to be able to get within those zones, you know, to where you can use those pieces to your advantage. Okay, and then also realizing how do they attack? How do they block? You know, just like I was saying with pawns, you know, they can move forward. Their first move, they can move forward twice, all right? But once something's in front of them, they can't move. You know, to attack, they have to be given something. It's just starting to think a little bit differently and start seeing the pieces on the board of the game you're playing. And start figuring out, you know, footwork is the same. And that's how they say, oh, I'm 3 steps ahead of you, okay? Because they're getting 3 steps ahead of you. And most people only move like one piece throughout the whole fight, Okay, they don't constantly switch their pieces. But anyways, moving on. Now, let's say, how do you move around the board? Okay, like there's only 2 pieces left on the board. Or, just how do you close distance? And this is one that when I was a kid, like when I was 12 years old, and I was starting to learn this stuff, this is used to be how I used to think. I used to think, you marched across the ring, or you did like that karate hopping, or that Mortal Kombat little sway and kind of work your way over. If not, to where you get better understanding, you're thinking, okay, most people that I run to, even today, they're thinking, like, imagine throwing a jab, like a textbook jab, and you step forward. Just imagine moving across the ring from one side to the other with the same footwork, okay, without the jab. And believe it or not, that's how a lot of people think you, like, move around the ring, okay? What you want to learn is being neutral, okay? Being able to walk. Yes, this is switching stances, okay? But once you get into an area, a range where you can go into your stance, okay? And I'm going to expand that later to where you can start doing, your patterns, your angles, and your steps. This is how you're trying to advance to get back to where you're like on the board, okay? Constantly trying to get in front of them again to where you can play with your pieces. So how do you get to them? Is being neutral and learning how to walk, okay? You're walking just like normal, all right? And then as you learn to walk, like try it, shadow boxing, just walk around naturally like you do every day, okay? And then once you step, step, throw, kick. Step, 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 throw, kick, okay? Think back, like hopefully you're learning structured. There's textbook, and then there's closing distance. And if you're learning structured, you're advancing to, hey, if I was to throw a kick right when he's out in front of me, compared to if I was to throw a kick if he's back here, or maybe he throws a kick and I can't even touch him, and even if he reached his hand out and my hand out, I couldn't touch him, okay? And it's how do you close that distance, okay? And it's learning how to walk. It's not literally like chasing them down like you're jabbing without jabbing. It's not some crazy thing, that you're hobbling all the way over there to, like you're fencing all the way there without a fencing. It's just learning to be natural and going from natural to your fight stance to kick, to kick, to knee. You're bringing yourself, it's like if I was walking, forward or reverse, I believe in going backwards. But if I was to come up and go forward, each time I step, I'm loading my kick or my knee, okay? If I was to go backwards, okay, I'm loading, back, loading, back, loading, back, loading, okay? You need to like literally just play around with this drill at first to figure it out. Is just walk around neutral and then just throw your kick, okay? Throw a leg kick, throw a body kick, throw a head kick. From naturally just walking. That's it. Anyways, so learn how to throw your kicks just from naturally walking around. Okay, it's just like you're naturally walking and then you throw a teep. You're naturally walking, you throw a knee. Okay, off you're walking, and then try and do it off both sides. And like I was saying, hopefully you're learning, structured. Because then you can start taking these techniques that you're learning that go past like the first couple months, to where you're learning how to close distance, how you're learning how to step into something to, close the distance and how to throw it. I mean, all those techniques are there, but like a lot of people I know have the problem of translating that or being able to interpret it live because they think there's a different kind of footwork that leads them to that, when really it's just learning how to be natural, and walking around natural, okay? But you don't throw defense out the window. All this is still the same as you're doing it, okay? It's just your feet, you're learning how to be this way, but also just walking natural at the same time. It's like stalking, you know. And then as you learn how to do that, a lot more of your stuff's going to start coming together in ways that you didn't even realize. You know, and then there is the marching, there is the other things, okay? It's just those have places, all right? That's not how you would ideally want to move it around the ring. But like I said, don't shut doors on yourself. If that's what you want to do, by all means. But if you want to progress and start learning different ways, try a little bit of everything, okay? But a good key is just learning how to be natural, neutral, and just block and then throw, okay? From just like surprise, okay? And then being able to move yourself in those positions to start playing with your pieces. But that's my basics on footwork for now. Mainly how would I add this in is just playing, you know. Maybe I might walk a little bit in shadow boxing, walk, throw my starter, walk some more, throw my base, walk some more, throw my finisher, you know, fill the gaps. If I was to use my pieces, my steps, I may throw, you know, my starter, then I'll do an L step, then I'll throw my base, and I'll do a V step, you know. I'm filling those gaps with those different footwork pieces, okay? The steps. And then you can also go and do it like if you're king or queen, okay? And you're thinking about the circles and the patterns on the floor that you see other gyms have, or maybe your gym has, and realize king's closer, pocket, you know, and queen's more outside trying to get inside, but you have more movement options. You know, it's like they can move 2 spaces where a king can only move 1, all right? But they can attack everywhere. But take those things into account. You're trying to walk natural. You're trying to make it all natural till you get in those positions to where these things come in. Same thing, like I was saying, with your starter. You know, throw your starter, boom, boom, angle, okay? And then throw your base, boom, boom, angle. After your base, boom, boom, finisher, angle, okay? And then just climb up and down the ladder and try and put these different pieces inside the spaces between your starter, your base, and your finisher, okay? And then that'll help you progress. And then really learning how to be neutral and walking, and it'll really de-tense you. And then you'll start seeing how all these techniques start flowing in instead of going from like this certain way of doing things. Because let's say if you were to just left foot forward the whole time, okay, how are you going to pull these things off? Okay, and then I touched on rudder steps, or no, I haven't, not on this one. I'll get into that later. Ruddering, okay, and that'll be another video down the line, and other things like that, you know. And I think, since I already brought it up, to think, you know, when we're driving, we turn the wheel, right? And our lead leg is doing the steering, okay? But we have our back leg too that can do the same thing. So instead of moving like a car, ruddering is like moving like a boat. And that's usually a much more efficient way to cut people off and do other things that most people aren't aware of, because we're used to leading with our left instead of leading with our right or our back leg, okay? Usually we lead with our front, not our back, and that's kind of ruddering. Anyways, I'll leave you with that footwork. Thank you very much. A little bit weird on footwork, but it's helping me help you build into other videos. Thank you.